Hey, this is Casey Ferris. Thanks for checking out this video. Really appreciate it. Today, we're going to look at one of the brand new features in Premiere Pro. This is Premiere Pro CC 2015, the fall update, which dropped today, November 30th of 2015. And I want to talk about a feature that I've been pretty excited about since I heard about it, and that is the integration of Optical Flow into the time remapping features of Adobe Premiere. So, what is Optical Flow? To help explain, I'm going to take this shot of a guy jumping from longboard to longboard, which is called a longboard transfer. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it is. I'm going to take this clip and hit Control R. That brings up my speed and duration settings, and I'm going to say speed 50%. Now, if I play this back, it looks a little bit choppy. If I just arrow through these frames, I can go one frame, next frame, next frame, you see, and it only moves every other frame. And the reason for that is because there's only that much information in the video. And so when you stretch it out, all it does is play each frame for 2 frames in our timeline. So it slows down the footage, but it looks choppy. And what Optical Flow does is make an in-between frame. So we have this frame, and it'll make a frame in between these to make the motion a little bit smoother. So let's have a look at what Optical Flow can do. This clip speed is set to 50%. I'm going to right click and go to Time Interpolation and go down to Optical Flow. So now let's take a look at what this is going to look like. So I'm going to arrow through these frames, and it takes a second to render. But here's a real frame, and then it's rendering a fake frame. So this is an in-between frame. This is just interpolated from the previous and the next frame. So this is a real frame, and this is an Optical Flow frame. So I'm going to render this in the timeline, and let's take a look at what it looks like. So definitely much smoother than before. This is with Optical Flow, and this is without. So yeah, it definitely makes a big difference. Now, one thing is it's not perfect. If you look at the in-between frames, you start to see little weird things like that. And that's because this is not actual magic. It's a tool that can kind of help smooth things out, and if it plays back fast enough, and if you have just the right shot, it looks pretty good. But what happens is if you have a complicated background and complicated movements, things get a little bit weird. Now, parts of the image will look really good. For instance, his legs, every frame look pretty darn solid. Like, hard to complain about that. His arms are just crazy. So if you're planning on using Optical Flow to slow your footage down, you kind of have to shoot for that. See, his legs work well because it's against a simple background, it has simple movement. So Optical Flow works decently for simple movements, slowed down a little bit. Pretty nice. And played back at full speed, there's a little bit of weirdness there, but it's somewhat hard to notice. So pretty good result. Some of you might see this and just go, sweet, I don't have to get a high frame rate camera. I can just shoot things regular and just slow things down willy-nilly like some kind of post-production slowing things down fool. Well, let me show you what Optical Flow won't do. It won't take something like this and then make it look like this. This is actually a clip that's shot on a high frame rate camera. It's shot somewhere between 200 and 300 frames a second. And so it looks nice and smooth. Everything's beautiful when it's played back at 24 frames a second because it's shot at a crazy frame rate. That's how you do actual slow motion, is you get a camera that can shoot slow motion. So to get a result this nice, you really have to shoot it in a high frame rate and then slow it down. If you shoot it at a normal 24 frames a second and you slow it down with Optical Flow, this is what you'll get. Pretty nice. Oh goodness, his arms are the Predator. This dude is from another dimension, and he's sliding in right now. He's a slider. So that's weird. Looks especially crazy when it's slowed down this much. So if you're planning on slowing stuff way down, shoot at a higher frame rate. Don't rely on your software. Now this is the point where all the fanboys start going, well, Casey, what about Twixtor? What about Twixtor? Twixtor. Tell you what, Twixtor is a great plugin. If you don't know what Twixtor is, it's basically like Optical Flow on crack. It's a plugin for After Effects and Premiere, and it does this, but a little bit better. So if you really need to slow stuff down, I would definitely go with Twixtor because it'll give you a better result than this, but still don't expect buttery smooth results just with frame interpolation. Now I want to show you something that Optical Flow actually works pretty darn well for, and that is up-converting a clip's frame rate to a higher frame rate. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to make a new sequence, and I'm going to do 1080 at 60p. I'm going to bring in my jumping clip here. And right now, I have a 24p clip dropped in a 60p timeline, and it's going to play back at basically 24p just with duplicate frames. So if I go through and I frame through this, I have duplicate, 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 there we go, new frame, duplicate, new frame, duplicate, duplicate, new frame. And so it's just duplicating the frames to make the timing work out. But since I'm working in a 60p timeline, let's say I'm delivering for some 60p show, what I can do is just right click and under time interpolation go to Optical Flow. And even though I haven't stretched this out, it knows that there's duplicate frames there. And so what it's going to do is not duplicate those frames, but interpolate them using Optical Flow. So I'm going to render this. And now I have a high frame rate clip that looks pretty good. The reason it looks pretty good is because even though I still have these weird frames going on, they actually go by a little bit faster because I'm playing back the frames at 60 frames a second instead of 24. So if you're working in a higher frame rate project and you need to upconvert something that was shot in 24 or 30p, Optical Flow is a nice quick solution that gives you pretty decent results. So there we go, that's the basics of Optical Flow. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you like this video, make sure to hit like. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. And if you want more post-production tutorials, color grading tutorials, guy jumping from skateboard to skateboard tutorials, go ahead and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. But that does it for me. My name's Casey Ferris. I'll catch you next time.